Seen another weak response from a weak Prime Minister. Today was a test of Malcolm Turnbull's judgment, and yet again, in that test, he has shown Australians just how weak he is. Now, let's recall this. By her own admission, Sussan Ley has breached the ministerial standards, and by her own statement, she says the Prime Minister agrees. So both Mr Turnbull and Ms Ley agree that she has breached the ministerial standards which are expected of her. But instead of doing the right thing and moving to remove Ms Ley from his front bench, to sack her from the Cabinet, we have a Prime Minister who yet again goes for the weak option. A weak Prime Minister demonstrating yet again his own weakness and his lack of judgment. Happy to take questions.
Sussan Ley says that she hasn't broken any rules though. You obviously disagree.
Well, that's not what she said in her statement yesterday. I mean, in her statement yesterday, she made clear that her behaviour did not accord with the standards that are expected of Cabinet Ministers, of ministers. She says in yesterday's statement that the Prime Minister has agreed with her. Yet what we see is the Prime Minister squibbing it. He's squibbing it again. I mean, this is a pattern of behaviour from Malcolm Turnbull. We saw that with Mr Roberts. We saw that with Mr Brough. Both of them were stood aside before they were eventually removed from the front bench. And he's doing it again. I mean, you have to ask Mr Turnbull this. What are your ministerial standards worth? What are they worth? It's clear that they have been breached by your minister's own admission, and yet, what do we have again? Yet another weak decision by a weak Prime Minister.
So do you think that she should resign altogether?
I think the Prime Minister should have removed her from the Cabinet because she's breached ministerial guidelines by her own admission. By her own admission. Now, let's understand, I saw some breaking news before I came down to this press conference. We're not talking about a small number of trips to the Gold Coast. As I understand it, we're talking around about 37 nights spent on the Gold Coast, a number of them for weekends. Now, by her own admission, Ms Ley says her behaviour did not comply with the standards expected of ministers.
You think her diary should be released? She said she's not going to be doing that.
Well, I saw her explanation in the press conference. She should release sufficient details to demonstrate that the trips she says were taken for public purposes were in fact taken for public purposes. So no one is saying release confidential details of patients. Nobody is saying release information that shouldn't be in the public arena. But she should release sufficient details to confirm any assertion that a trip was taken for public purposes.